Bonsoir tout le monde, bienvenue. Je m'excuse, on est quelques minutes en retard. Bienvenue au conseil du 19 avril 2021. Welcome to tonight's council meeting. As this is a mid-month meeting, it's typically a shorter public agenda, as well as at 5:30 instead of 7:30. So I don't have much to update in terms of COVID and the new measures. Obviously, the curfew is still in place. The only thing I would add is that we've seen, obviously, the weather is getting nicer, which is, I think, a great relief to everybody. And we've seen, huge number of people in the parks, which I appreciate and I understand. I would beg of you, please, to keep your distance when you're in the parks, but also to ensure that you don't leave any garbage behind. The parks are our oasis, and we cannot have what we had go on last summer, which was people leaving pizza boxes and wine bottles all over the park. And so I would ask citizens to really help us keep those parks clean. So on that, and if there are any changes this week, I suspect that there will be changes to the vaccine rollout. And one change we expect to see is that the AstraZeneca age will be lowered. So I would say to people, whenever you are eligible and able to get a vaccine, that is the right vaccine for you. So I encourage you, as soon as you're able, to get your vaccine, because we are not going to get out of this until we all do our part and get our vaccine. So if there are any changes there, we will certainly make them public on our website and on all of our social media platforms. But as of now, our programming for the summer and the registration is open. So we hope that we hope that continues. So I will hand it over to a few councillors have some brief reports. So I will start with Marina. Excuse me, Councillor Breshke.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. Just very briefly, two events this week to remind everyone of, and it's Earth Day. Earth Day on Thursday. This is my mug from last year. Earth Day is occurring on Thursday, and we have an event. The Community Events Department has put on a roundtable discussion with some of our leaders in the environment on the business side of things. And so it will be a very interesting event that starts at 7 in the evening. We'll have Annie Rouleau, fondatrice et PDG de The Untitled Company. Et puis Chris Stern, le cofondateur et PDG de Carbicrete, Julie Poitras, saunier, présidente de Loop Juice. Et ce sera tout animé avec Matt Gilmore, qui est le journaliste de CTV News et qui se spécialise au sujet portant sur l'environnement. Alors, tout ça, c'est jeudi à 7 h et vous pouvez vous inscrire sur le site web. You can register for this event through the city's website, or you'll see the links on the social media platforms. Also, this week on Saturday is the day to bring your hazardous waste to the library. It's one of our biannual collections of household hazardous waste at the library. It's this Saturday, and it's running from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. with all the same identical COVID procedures as last time. So we invite residents to come, and there will be a drop-off for those who want to drive, or you can also come by foot, bring your old paints and other toxic chemicals to dispose of safely. And that's it from me. Thank you, Mayor Smith.
Thank you, Councillor Breshke. Councillor Gallery has an update.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a few quick updates. One, I just want to let you know that tomorrow registration for tennis starts. And secondly, we're in the midst of putting together our soccer teams, and we're still looking for volunteers. So again, I repeat myself from 2 weeks ago, but if you neighbors, young students and neighbors alike, friends, we need you. We'd love you to help out on the fields with our youth. There's two events coming up I just wanted to highlight. On Wednesday, it's Canadian National Film Day, and we'll be featuring the film, The Passion of Augustine, and it's a day to celebrate Canadian film. So I hope you tune in go to our website and you just register at Eventbrite. It's a free showing. And next week, we have another fireside chat with Mitch Joel, and he'll be speaking with Victoria LeBlanc, who's an artist and author and the curator of our own gallery at the Victoria Hall. So tune into that interview, and he helps us get to know our Westmount neighbors and friends. So it's always interesting. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gallery. And Councillor Lulham has a report as well.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. So first off, I want to say that the placettes have been put out, the parquettes. There's one on Victoria, and then there's two on Sherbrooke on either side of Prince Albert Square. Our public works teams have been putting them together. Over on Green Avenue, we will start next week or the week after painting. We're going to be expanding the pedestrian area and seating area that we had last year on the block between Sherbrooke and de Maisonneuve to de Maisonneuve and St. Catherine as well. So we will be painting that block as well. We will be adding the picnic tables and umbrellas. There's going to be much more exciting furniture coming as we roll out. There will be hammocks, there will be pergolas, lots of fun things. So stay tuned, but just to let you know that we will be doing the first phases with what we already have in stock. That's, oh, I wanted to mention one more thing. I've received a few emails from residents of the Westmount Plaza Towers who are concerned about entrance to their building off of de Maisonneuve. So I just want to assure everybody that our engineering department, urban planning department, and traffic group are all working together to design the entrance and exit from that area, as well as a emergency lane that would remain open at all times for fire trucks. We're working with the fire department. So the car-free area over past Dawson won't be opening until after June 24th. We're expecting the STM work to go on until then. So in the meantime, we are working on the configuration for the vehicles to get in, and we understand that the residents are concerned about being able to enter and exit via their ramp, and we are looking at including that. So there you go.
Thank you very much. I think that's all for council updates. I'm not sure, am I echoing to everybody? I'm not sure what that is about, but hopefully that'll clear up. That is all for council updates. So now we are going to move into the first question period before we get into the agenda, and we have questions that were submitted to us. And as is new, as of the last council meeting at the beginning of April, you are allowed to ask questions in the second question period, which comes at the end of the public agenda, which you can submit online. So submit through the chat. But I would note that you have to state your name, has to be in the question, or we won't be able to. We cannot take anonymous questions, just like we wouldn't be able to if we were in the council chamber together. So we now move to the first question period, la première période de questions. Monsieur le greffier.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I will add, for those of you who may submit questions in our second question period who have not seen our rules of procedure, it is in the second question period. First of all, those questions are to be on what was discussed on the agenda at tonight's meeting, and it'll be one question and a follow-up question per person to be asked in that second question period. And you'll notice that there's a Q&A part at the bottom of your screen in this special webinar format for our meeting tonight. So without further ado, we'll jump right into it with our first question from Joseph Maloney. I would like to ask why the city takes upwards of 6 weeks to issue a payment requested for overpaying property taxes. The city is very expeditious in invoking a 9% interest rate for late payments, as well as promoting payments electronically. The refunds are done manually and sent by Canada Post.
If I may.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney. Yes, I'm going to hand it over to Kathleen Kez, the Commissioner of Finance, to answer that.
Hello, Mr. Maloney. First of all, sorry for your frustration, but it did take some time. Also, one of the reasons being there were a lot of reimbursements being handled at that time. Also, your refund was processed on Friday, mailed out on Friday. So if you didn't receive it today, we'll definitely receive it in the coming days. Regarding your particular situation and your frustration, perhaps I would suggest that you only pay the outstanding balance of your account in the future. Or if you happen to overpay, you can ask the finance department to reimburse your overpayment immediately. It's your choice. And just for your information, before any check is issued, there is a stringent policy of how many steps to take. It's not just a matter of two people signing a check and sending it out. There's procedures to follow. Also, the refunds are always made by checks. Only supplier payments are made electronically. So the process of writing a check for refund has always been and will remain. And I hope I answered your questions.
Thanks. Thank you, Councillor Kez. And Mr. Maloney, if that wasn't clear, you can certainly be in touch with us. Next question.
Our next question is the second question from Mr. Maloney. I want to thank the city for warning us of the possibility of line painting overnight. What I did not anticipate we painting lines in one of the worst intersections on the island of Montreal, St. Catherine and Lansdowne at 2 p.m. on Saturday, April 17th. Always a busy time when the Turcotte is closed. It was a disaster waiting to happen with drivers trying to navigate through cones all over the place. It would have been a good idea to assign Westmount security in the area.
Thanks for your feedback. I was actually in the area at the time, and I did see that it caused a huge traffic congestion, and we'll certainly relay it. I'm sure Mr. St. Louis is taking notes on that. We'll relay it to our Public Works Department, but line painting is something that has to get done, and it's weather dependent. And Saturday was a sunny day. We do it during the day and at night. So sometimes it will cause traffic, and it will cause it will have an impact, but I think for anyone who's seen our streets that have been painted, it does have an impact on traffic calming. But I take your note in terms of an afternoon on a Saturday when the Turcotte was closed, and we will certainly relay that to our Public Works team. Does anyone else want to add anything else on that? No? Okay, thanks for your feedback though. And you'll see our line painting crew, the line painting contractors out over the next couple weeks, and hopefully the weather will cooperate with them. Okay.
Okay, our next question, actually we received just a few questions on the same topic. So for ease of addressing all of them, I'll read them one after the other, and then they can be addressed as a whole. So our first question is from John Fretz, and the topic is the Atwater Library. So our first question is from John Fretz. Good evening, Madam Mayor and councillors. Recently announced supporting grants for independent community service groups have been slashed. According to my recollection, in response to a question I made at the mid-December budget meeting of 2020, the city posted an unallocated surplus in the vicinity of $178,000. I would like to know, is there an anticipated unallocated surplus to be handed down in this year's annual budget to be remitted on April 30th? If so, will you consider boosting the allocations to community services groups, including the Atwater Library, the latter which faces a municipal funding level that reverts to less than the 2018 level? And another question. So the intended objective, sorry, it's just continuing from the same point. The intended objective of the Atwater Library's funding is to provide services such as upgrading computer skills and self-help programs that are not otherwise available in Westmount, either at the Westmount Library or Victoria Hall. The Atwater Library serves the needs and interests of an inner city demographic. A correctly assessed overview should not simply slice funding for organizations struggling to reach out to residents during pandemic times. Madam Mayor, will you reconsider support funding for essential community services? And this question, our next question is from Richard Conrad. The Atwater Library has been a vital presence in Westmount for more than 100 years. So we were taken aback to learn our supporting grant for 2021 has been slashed by more than 30%. This in the midst of a COVID pandemic that has left charitable organizations like ours struggling to cover their operation costs. The cuts impact not only our programming, which includes hosting close to 100 free educational and cultural events each year. They also risk imposing collateral damage on fellow nonprofits such as Manoir Westmount and the Contactivity Center, to whom we deliver our immensely successful digital literacy program for seniors. Given the circumstances, would Council consider providing some supplementary COVID relief funding? And a question from Andrew Burlone. The Atwater Library and Computer Center provide innumerable services to our community and continue to do so despite COVID-19. Yet, Council has decided to slash the city's annual supporting grant by more than 30% from $37,500 in 2020 to just $25,560 for 2021. Furthermore, Council has also discontinued the practice of the previous administration of awarding special grants to offset significant hikes in the library's property taxes and hefty construction permit fees stemming from the ongoing conservation and upgrading of its century-old headquarters. Will Council reconsider these decisions and award the Atwater Library the generous grants that it deserves?
Are those all the questions on this
Yeah.
subject? Okay, thank you for your questions. And I've heard from those that had submitted the questions. I've also spoken to some residents today as well, and we've heard from other residents by email. So, I mean, every year at this time, the city sends out our supporting grants for programs that are offered for Westmount residents that are not part of the activities that we offer at the city, whether through sports and rec or our community programs. And we do that at around this time every single year. And there is it's a public program. They apply for it, and it's typically for the most part, it's the same organizations that apply year after year. And I guess I would note that, and of which Atwater Library is one. And Atwater Library has always been, or certainly for the past several years, has been the second largest recipient, grant recipient. And I would note, and I understand, I know that the role of COVID has had a significant impact on organizations everywhere. Especially those that have had to close their doors and not been able to serve their community, of which Atwater Library is one. I know they're offering some online stuff, and that's important. And I salute the work that the Atwater Library does. I truly do. But I must say, the role of a municipality is the delivery of services. And so citizens pay taxes and we give services. And it is not, and so that's the very fundamental basis of this program, is the delivery of services and programs. And I wish that, in many ways, and people are asking us to make charitable donations, and it's just, while Westmount is a community that's incredibly philanthropic, and I know citizens are very generous in their support of the Atwater Library. Several of them are. They've reached out to me, but it is not the role. The municipality cannot make those charitable donations. We don't take your taxes and then decide which charity we want to support, but we do support programming, and the programming that was the programming that's given to citizens. A key component of this, so every year this grant program has a set amount. So this year the grant, it was somewhere around $130,000, and that is allocated to different groups throughout the community that have been able to deliver services. And this has been a difficult year, and it's a difficult year to quantify because so many of those programs haven't been able to happen, and through no fault of their own. It's not the fault of the Visual Arts Center that they weren't able to offer the programming that they normally do. We are all looking forward to the day when they can offer that full programming, but it meant that they got a little bit less funding this year. Other organizations like Contactivity, had to pivot and really change their role this year. And, one of the major things that they've done was grocery shopping. And it's something that our public security team did, but couldn't do for everybody. So Contactivity was shopping for groceries, getting medication for seniors. They've also been doing a vaccine driving program. And with that, they needed more funds. So Contactivity got allocated some more funds. This is all based on an application that is submitted to the city and reviewed with our community events team, that is based on, you know, a formula, if you will, and then reviewed by the administration and proposed to council with recommendations. So we took those recommendations. But so I get that it's difficult, and I probably should have made a phone call. I'm managing as a mayor in the midst of a pandemic, and I didn't make that phone call to the Atwater Library. So I apologize. I have a huge amount of respect for the leadership, for the, you know, Mr. Dick Pound is running a campaign to ensure that they have funding to preserve their building, and I have a huge amount of respect for that. But based on the submission and the application that was made, that was the decision, that was what was proposed, and that was what was supported unanimously by council. And that is the envelope that we were working with, is $130,000. But I do want to address, there has been a lot of communication out there that this council has reduced funding to Atwater Library, that we're no longer doing one-time grants, that there's that it's been a continual decline, and that we don't support the library. And it's just, I think we need to work in facts, and we'll be much better off for it in the end. And so, you know, a one-time grant last year was given to the Atwater Library of $8,000 to offset some costs for permit fees that they had paid, which they had received in a grant from the federal government to upgrade their building, which I applaud. And, you know, I was very supportive of the federal grant, and I supported it with Mark Garneau's office, and I was very pleased when they received that funding. So yes, so to say that we stopped that funding is not true. That was $8,000 in 2020 for that one-time grant, as well as a $5,247 grant in 2017. Going back to 2016, there was a $4,000 one-time grant, and these have all been to help offset some of the cost of investing in that building, which we know is expensive. But at the same time, I would note that what we do for one, we have to do for all. So we have a lot of heritage buildings in the city. We have 13 churches that are barely surviving, and they are of heritage value as well in terms of buildings in our community. So I just want to make it very, very clear that we haven't stopped giving that funding. And as you know, as we progressed through this mandate in 2016, the original funding for Atwater Library was $26,000. In 2017, it was $29,000. In 2018, it was $39,000. And in 2019, it was $36,500. And so this will move depending on the needs and the entire envelope. So it's not a set fund. It's part of a $130,000 fund of that's allotted to programming. But what I would say, so it's also an organization that gets support from Public Works and from Public Security. I know that the Director General is speaking with the leadership right now of the Atwater Library to work on a couple different things. And so I guess I was a bit shocked when some of the facts were laid out, that we had stopped this these one-time support, and that we had declined in funding overall in this mandate, which is not true. But I empathize with them. It's an incredibly difficult time for not-for-profits, and we absolutely support all the work of these amazing organizations. But we cannot be giving to charitable, or we're not giving money as a charitable donation. We are giving money to support programs that are being offered to residents. And so the one last thing that I would point out that it is critical is that these programs are predominantly for Westmount residents, because it is supported with Westmount tax dollars. And so I would encourage the Atwater Library as a grant recipient to be able to provide that data to us that the other groups have been able to provide, in terms of the number of users, and that they're Westmount residents. So I'm always open to discuss this issue, but it has been I want to make sure, and there is also some questioning that it's because, we have the Westmount Library, which is an incredible library, which everybody will agree in a typical, non-COVID life, there's 1,000 people that walk through the doors of the Westmount Library every day. And the Atwater Library is in by no means competition with the Westmount Library. They offer different services in the community, and of which we have supported. There's a reason why they are the second largest grant recipient, and there are some great organizations out there. And so next year, I hope that we see new applicants and new groups that are applying for this funding, and we are going to make changes. I think what's clear is that there need to be some changes with how this money is allotted, and that it really is about programming and services delivered to Westmount residents. So thank you for your questions. I think I answered most of the points in there. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to that? No? Councillor Lulham? You're on mute.
There we go. Yes, I think, having been on council for 25 years, I've seen the support that council has always given to the Atwater Library, and I was very disappointed by some of the comments that are out there. And I think you've said it very well, Mayor Smith. Our goal, our raison d'etre is to collect citizens' taxes and return it in services. And so, the Westmount, the Atwater Library doesn't provide the data, and that would be probably helpful to them. But I'd also underline that in the past, we have given them some fairly large one-time grants for renovations that you didn't mention. I think that we've been very supportive, and we do a lot of in-kind services in terms of flowers and bulbs and the like. So, they're small, but they all add up. And I hope that the leadership and membership understand that we do support the Atwater Library, and we do support the programming that they give to Contactivity and the Manoir. Thank you.
Which I think is separate. I think it might just be it's not a specific program to Contactivity. From what I understand, it's just people who use Contactivity may also use the Atwater Library, is what I understand, but it is not a fixed program delivering those services, from what I understand.
Perhaps they can look at that.
Councillor Gallery.
Thanks, Mayor Smith, for explaining a lot of the history and our relationship with the library. I just want to reiterate that it is a finite amount of money. This year we had 6 applicants, of which 2 had services ongoing throughout most of the year of the pandemic. Therefore, their needs were greater this year. As such, we had to redirect funds. So the other 4 recipients went down by the same percentage point. It wasn't ad hoc or random. It was a formula, as the Mayor mentioned, with the grid that our administration uses to help allocate the funds as fairly as possible. So that's just all I'd like to add. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Shami. Did you have something you wanted to add on there?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I want to support your comments. Very eloquent in empathy in our raison d'etre. Councillor Lulham and Councillor Gallery's comments, and I know the rest of us around the table share those views. I come from the world of philanthropy, and philanthropy is vital, especially during a pandemic. But it is not the role of municipal council. We steward the taxes we collect on our citizens' behalfs to provide those services, to provide municipal services, not to give to charitable organizations. That's not our job. Our job is to help as best we can. And I think, Mayor, you raised some very, very important statistics about the number of people that are certain of the programs and services that we provide. But we have to let the misinformation and some of these things I've been reading today is really not correct. The support has been empathetic, has been there for this very wonderful, vital part of our legacy in our community, the Atwater Library. But it is not our job to be giving out municipal dollars for charity. That's not the position of why we're elected. And I just wanted to support the mayor and make those comments.
Thank you. Any further comments on this, or we move on to the next question? But so to those who who wrote and have any further questions, you know how to, if you have any further comments on that, you know how to get a hold of me. Maitre Brownstein, next question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our next question is from Dennis Bureau. This question is, a key step in the Imagine Westmount 2040 project is a survey titled Land Diagnosis Online Activity. It was completed by residents on November 16th of last year, 5 months ago. The results were discussed at the February 15th General Committee meeting among councillors, members of the city administration, and Transfer, the project facilitators. During the meeting, councillors emphasized the importance of the public consultation as it provides a clear idea of residents' opinions. This successful engagement with our community is excellent news. Residents are looking forward to seeing the findings. When will the report be released? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bureau, for your question. I think that Councillor Lulham would like to answer it with the details of where that report is.
Yes, Mr. Bureau, the survey results, the report is on our Imagine Westmount website. It's been there for a while, since March. It's available in French and English. If you go on the Imagine Westmount website and go under the part that says, why does Westmount need a new urban plan? And on the other side says events, there's a little box that says consult the latest survey results here. Click on it and it will bring up the synthesis of the consultation report, Your Westmount Today. It has information that we gathered on environment, society, economy, urban form and design. And it's very interesting results. So if you have any further questions, please contact me.
Thank you for that answer. Maybe it's, we need to make it a little easier to find, I guess would be.
We already did.
Okay, all right, that we can make sure that these things are easy to find. Okay, thank you, Mr. Bureau. If you have any further comments on that, please be in touch. Next question.
Okay, our next question is from Dennis Bureau again. Council is planning to restore the 300 City Hall windows at an estimated cost of $1.4 million. The city has only two options, new wood framed windows or a restoration of existing windows, as any replacement with modern materials would not be permitted under our dated renovation guidelines. The city chose restoration while acknowledging that this is not the best environmental option. Why has the city rejected new wood framed windows, double glazed for superior energy efficiency, as well as eliminating likely condensation between the two windows? With such a large production run and considering future maintenance, this may even be a lower cost option in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bureau, for the question. I'm going to hand it over. Oh, apologies. Thank you, Mr. Bureau, for the question. I'm going to hand it over to Councillor Peart, who has some information on that.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. It's a great question, and it is quite interesting and pertinent. As Mr. Bureau has remarked, we are restoring the windows, and we're not replacing them. And what's happening is that we are restoring the inside pane and the storm pane, and it is, instead of having, say, a thermal pane, which I think most of us would be accustomed to, the original pane will be single layer glass, and the storm pane will be a single pane of glass as well. The reason why we're heading towards the reason why we decided to go with a restoration rather than a replacement, I mean, there's a multitude of reasons, and I think the administration is planning to follow up with more detail. But I can kind of give you just a quick synopsis, given that I have a little bit of understanding about this stuff. It's not just about aesthetics, it's not just about cost, but there's technical considerations as well. And a wall is composed of many. It's basically a system. It's a building envelope as a system, and it's not like we can just switch in a kit of parts, and so you switch in a window, a different type of window, and it's going to work. Because if you do that, what generally happens is kind of leads to unintended consequences. And often what happens, especially in old buildings, heritage buildings, it causes unforeseen consequences down the line, and you get some failures in the envelope elsewhere in the system. So if you were to simply just insert a thermal pane, what you're suddenly doing is you have a heavier bit of glass, you're putting a different dew point in the wall system, Your mullions get thicker, your sashes get thicker, you need heavier and more robust hardware. All of these things we kind of contribute, and they make it kind of can impact the appearance and the heritage character of the building. I think Mr. Biro, you alluded to sustainability, and it's a great point. But one of the most things that we can do in terms of sustainability is to restore and not to replace. There's a lot of embodied carbon that's in the systems that are already in place. And so what we're doing instead is they're going to the contractors, they're going to take these elements and they're going to restore them. There's going to be stripping, there's going to be sanding, scraping, restoring, repainting. Some of this work's going to be done in the shop. Some of the work is going to be done on site. Members that need to be replaced, they will be taken apart and restored. So it's a lot of work it's going to be put in to putting the windows to almost to the status of their original state, and we'll be improving the air tightness of this. We'll be caulking, we'll be sealing. Different elements will be replaced. Weather stripping will go in, and I know a lot of times we put a lot of focus on the thermal resistance of items, but one of the biggest things and the best bang for the buck you can get for making some improvement in terms of energy efficiency in your building is to work on air tightness, and by having better construction, having these restored window sashes with the weather stripping, with the caulking, we'll be getting a lot of we'll be really improving the system that's already in place. So I think that it's not as simple as just, like I said, taking something in and switching it out in the same way that you wouldn't suddenly turn a Camry into an electric vehicle just by dropping an electric engine in there. It's a system, and the system has to be thought of comprehensively and not just as a point by point. But I think the administration is going to follow up with you with some more details than I'm giving you here today. But I appreciate the question, and I think with some ongoing maintenance and some care of these windows, they could probably last us another 100 years. So I look forward to I look forward to seeing this work take place.
Thank you, Councillor Peart, and thank you, Mr. Biro, for the question. Are there any further questions?
We have a few more questions. Our next question is from Ava Chisling, and the question is, hi, is there a plan to replace, sorry, just one second. I want to make sure I didn't miss any others. Yeah, we're fine. Okay, Ava Chisling, is there a plan to replace current city vehicles with electric? They are loud and noisy and pollute, and I hope there is a plan to go fully electric in the future. And on a similar note, it's time to ban leaf blowers outright, 100% of the time. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. I agree with all with the points you brought up, leaf blowers and electric cars. So you had asked specifically about our fleet. I think Councillor Breschke is going to answer that. But I would just note before she does answer that as a city, we also need to be prepared for our citizens going electric. So I'll now hand it over to Councillor Breschke, who has some more details on that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the question. So yes, City of Westmount is electrifying its fleet of vehicles where we can. So Westmount Hydro has electric vehicles. Our Public Works Department has hybrids, and we have other hybrid vehicles. I believe there's also in public security. However, we evaluate the powers, let's say certain trucks that we use in public works obviously are not able to be hybrid or electric, given the geographic terrain of Westmount is uphill. So we evaluate the possibilities. So at each time there is a purchase of a vehicle, we consider the possibilities of using clean energy. So that is one thing. Second, Hydro Westmount does have a plan, an electrification route plan, and we actually, I think it was last council meeting, we moved a motion to continue our contract with Hydro Quebec and introduce new charging stations, des bornes de recharge, charging stations on our territory, which will make it more accessible for Westmount residents to charge their electric vehicles. So we are promoting the electrification of vehicles, and we welcome any questions and suggestions. With regards to leaf blowers, we did start 2 years ago to test a full electrification of our leaf blowers by our Public Works Department. So we had used electric leaf blowers, and now we use a bit of a combination. And our department is in discussions with the manufacturers and the distributors of leaf blowers to see how the technology can be best maximized and used in our city of our size. So we're all interested in passing a legislation to make it mandatory to use electric leaf blowers, but we are first testing the grounds with our own usage of the leaf blowers. So we do have a noise bylaw, and in fact, the question is very timely because at this moment, leaf blowers are being used. They're allowed to be used for 1 month to start off the season, and our public security officers are on foot to ensure that those leaf blowers do meet the noise levels that are required in the city of Westmount. So we are following closely.
Thank you, Councillor Breshke, and I would encourage residents also when they hire their gardeners to ask them to use electric leaf blowers if they can, they should. They're available. They're on the market, so that would certainly help as well. Okay, thank you. Any further questions?
Yes, we have just 2 more questions. The first one is they're both from Dan Lambert of the Association of Pedestrians and Cyclists of Westmount. His first question is, we thank the mayor, the city engineer, and Montreal for keeping the de Maisonneuve bike path open and accessible for socially distancing pedestrians during the pipe repairs this summer. Key to its success is the closure of de Maisonneuve at Olivier, which prevents transit drivers from using de Maisonneuve west of Olivier. With so few cars on de Maisonneuve, it is safe for both pedestrians and cyclists despite the pipe repairs. To maintain this low traffic volume, we ask that Olivier remain closed for the full duration of the repairs. We also ask the city to monitor pedestrian and cyclist satisfaction this summer to potentially permanently close de Maisonneuve to through traffic, like the de Maisonneuve closure at Atwater. This will reinforce de Maisonneuve's character as a very low traffic street.
Thank you for the question, the commentary. I think there's a couple people that may want to chime in on this. I know that this project on de Maisonneuve is obviously having an impact on the people that live there, but at the same time, it's offering an opportunity for there to be no car traffic during the day. So it is, in terms of in that section where they're doing where Montreal's doing the water work. But thank you for your suggestions and for your work on this. To Mr. Lambert, and as well as the Cycling Association has offered a lot of input and commentary on this, and as well to our engineering team that's worked hard to make sure that this project is as safe and accessible as possible for the residents who live on the street, but also those who use it as a cycling and walking path. Does anyone else want to add on that? I think Councillor Wellham does.
Yes, I'd say that so far, so good. It's definitely a large impact on the residents. There's a lot of trucks, there's a lot of work going on, but so far we see a lot of pedestrians moving. The north side is free and clear, so I'm pleased with that. In terms of closing it, let's see how we do on the first block first, and take it a step at a time.
Thank you. The next question, which I think is the last question.
Exactly. This is our last question, again from Daniel Lambert. Is currently Westmount crosswalks are identified by a couple of white lines, which are quickly erased by vehicles. Because the lines are discrete, drivers frequently stop in the crosswalk, thereby compromising pedestrian safety at intersections where most collisions occur. To make crosswalks more visible and therefore safer for pedestrians, we ask that Westmount identify all crosswalk with bands of yellow lines similar to some other parts of Montreal. For clarity, I've sent council members a photo of the yellow banded crosswalks in the Southwest and Ville Marie boroughs.
Thank you for the question, and thank you. I did see the email today with the pictures, and it is something that we will be looking at with our public works team. But yes, I agree with you. Paint can have a huge impact on the street in terms of traffic calming, and if yellow is more effective and we're able to put it on the street, then that is certainly something we will look at. Does anyone else want to add on that? No, but we will get back to you on that, and any other possible, as we said, paint on a street is a good traffic calming measure. So thank you. I think that's it for questions. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's all.
All right, we are now going to move into the next part of the agenda avec l'adoption de l'ordre du jour, le conseiller Breschke qui va prendre Councillor Breschke tonight is going to take the motions for Councillor Cutler as well, who's not able to be here right now. So I hand it over to you, Councillor Breschke, for the adoption of the agenda.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Je propose que l'ordre du jour de la séance ordinaire du Conseil du 19 avril 2021 soit adopté.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que j'ai un appuyeur? Monsieur Chamy, tout en faveur? All in favor? Carried. Item number 5, numéro 5, approbation du procès verbal. Encore, Madame Breschke, le conseiller Breschke.
Je propose que le procès verbal de la séance ordinaire du Conseil tenue le 6 avril 2021 soit approuvé.
Merci beaucoup. Est-ce que j'ai un appuyeur pour ça? Madame la conseillère Bostock, tout en faveur? Merci. I need everyone to vote. Councillor Kez, I need you to vote. Thank you. Item number 6, correspondence. There are no reports tabled. 6.2, again, Councillor Breschke.
The minutes of the General Committee meeting of Council held on March 15, 2021 are tabled and are available on the city's website.
Thank you very much. Item number 7, extension of a contract, Superintendent Roads Public Works Department. Councillor Chamy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the contract of Monsieur Denis René for the position of Superintendent Roads, Grade 8, in the Public Works Department be extended for a maximum period of 9 weeks from May 1st, 2021 to July 2nd, 2021, according to the needs of the department, the whole in accordance with the recommendation of the Director of Public Works and the terms provided for in the working conditions and remuneration of management personnel.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Again, Councillor Bostock, any further comments on this?
Straightforward extension.
Perfect, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Item number 8, modification of contract, grooming fees for the King George Toboggan Run. That will be Councillor Breschke.
I move that the contract awarded to Snow Innovation Inc. to create a formal toboggan in King George Park be modified and increased to a maximum amount of $55,559.75, all taxes included. That an additional expenditure be authorized in the amount of $24,093.02, all taxes included, for the contract to create a formal toboggan run in King George Park with Snow Innovation Inc. To allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making files number 2021-1226.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Gallery. I think that we can all agree that the King George Toboggan Run was a big success for West Manors this winter. So all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Again, Councillor Breschke, item number 9, request for proposals, purchase of a new 2022 cab chassis Isuzu truck.
I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $61,471, including tax credits, for the purchase of a new 2022 cab chassis Isuzu truck. Request for proposals number DDP 2021-004. To award to Camion Inter Anjou Inc. the contract for this purpose and its proposal for a maximum amount of $70,676.28, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the request for proposals DDP-2021-004, to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in decision-making file number 1240.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder on this? Councillor Lulham, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. I don't think there are any further comments on this. Now, item number 10, request for proposal supply of work clothes for the Public Safety Department. Councillor Bostock.
I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $91,804.64, including tax credits, for the supply of work clothes for the Public Safety Department. Request for proposals number DDP 2021-011 to award to Centre du Travailleur FH Inc. the contract for this purpose and its proposal for a maximum amount of $100,538.05, including tax credits, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the request for proposals DDP 2021-011. To allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2021-1237.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this is Councillor Lulham raising her hand there. Any further comments on this? Councillor Bostock?
No, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. They need new uniforms. We need to ensure that they're identifiable on the street and that they have clothes to protect them from the elements. They are out there all the time. So this is a great thing.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Item number 11, numéro 11 encore, Madame Bresch, le conseiller Breschke, appel d'offres public réfection d'asphalte sur le boulevard Dorchester en direction ouest, entre la rue Sainte-Catherine et l'avenue Green.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $959,829.16, including tax credits, for the asphalt rehabilitation on Dorchester Boulevard westbound between St. Catherine Street and Green Avenue. Tender number PUB-2021-023. To award to Eurovia Québec Construction Inc. the contract for this purpose at its bid price for a maximum amount of $1,051,138.07, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual document of the call for tenders PUB-2021-023, to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2021-1238.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder on this? Councillor Kez. Any further comments on this? Anyone? Councillor Kez or Breschke? No. Okay.
Long overdue, or not long overdue, but the asphalt resurfacing of St. Catherine
Or Dorchester. Yeah. On
Dorchester. My apologies. Dorchester drivers will notice the improvement.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Item number 12, item numéro 12, appel d'offres public, contrat de travaux civils mineurs Hydro Westmount 2021, le conseiller Chamy.
Thank you. Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $298,495 even, including tax credits, for the contract for minor civil works, Hydro Westmount 2021, tender number PUB 2021-028, and to award to Transelect Common Inc. the contract for this purpose at its bid price for a maximum amount of $343,194.63, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the call for tender PUB 2021-028. And finally, Madam Mayor, to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2021-1235.
Thank you, Councillor Chamy. Seconder on this will be Councillor Bostock. Any further comments?
Straightforward.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 13, adoption of bylaw 1570 to establish the conditions governing the supply of electricity. The city clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to report that all formalities required for dispensing with the reading of this bylaw have been observed and that copies of the bylaw have been remitted to all members of council and are available for public reference. The object of this bylaw is to establish the conditions governing the supply of electricity. This bylaw repeals bylaw 1553 to establish the conditions governing the supply of electricity as amended by bylaw 1562.
Thank you very much. Can I have the declaration by each member of council present that he or she has read the bylaw and that reading is waived thereof? Yes,
So there.
so declared by show of hands. Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that bylaw number 1570, entitled a bylaw to establish the conditions governing the supply of electricity, be adopted.
Thank you. And I don't need, do we need a vote on that? All in, I
We
need a
need second,
seconder,
yeah.
is Councillor Bostock. And all in favor? Carried. I see everybody's hand, yes. I declare that bylaw 1570, entitled bylaw to establish the conditions governing the supply of electricity, having been duly adopted, is ordered that notices be given as required by law. Thank you. And again, item number 14, adoption bylaw 1571 to establish rates and certain conditions for the supply of electricity for the year 2021, 2022, again to the city clerk.
I'd like to report that all formalities required for dispensing with the reading of this bylaw have been observed and that copies of the bylaw have been remitted to all members of council and are available for public reference. The object of this bylaw is to establish the electricity rates for Hydro Westmount customers as of April 1st, 2021. The object of this bylaw is also to establish certain conditions respecting the supply of electricity for the year 2021 to 2022. This bylaw repeals bylaw 1554 to establish the rates and certain conditions for the supply of electricity for the year 2020 to 2021, as amended by bylaw 1562.
Thank you very much. Est-ce que je peux avoir la déclaration à la part de chaque membre du conseil présent à la fait qu'il ou elle a lu le règlement et que la lecture en est dispensée? Oui, so declared. Again, Councillor Shammy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that bylaw number 1571, entitled a bylaw to establish the rates and certain conditions for the supply of electricity for the year 2021, 2022 be adopted.
And it is, thank you very much. I declare, and I need a seconder on that, sorry. Councillor Gallery, all in favor? Carried. Do I see all hands? Yes. I declare that bylaw 1571, entitled bylaw to establish rates and certain conditions for the supply of electricity for the year 2021, 2022, having been duly adopted. It is ordered that notices be given as required by law. And now to the final item, 15, urban planning approval under the bylaw on site planning and architectural integration programs. Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that according to the recommendations made by the Planning Advisory Committee at its meeting held on April 12, 2021, the building permit applications appearing on the attached list reviewed under bylaw 1305 on site planning and architectural integration programs be approved.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lulham would like to second that. Any of note that you want to highlight?
A barrage of pools, it seems. I think at my last count, there were 8 pools on this list of 28 applications. So we are seeing a trend. I don't know how long it can continue. We only have so many backyards that can accommodate a pool, but yeah, it's quite something this year. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Carried. So that is the end of there's no new items on the agenda. So we now move to our second question period. Do we have, let me just look here. We have one question from Robert Babchuk. Do you want me to read that to the city clerk, or do you read it?
I'll read the question.
Okay.
So this question is from Robert Babchuk. Dear Madam Mayor, are you pleased with public attendance during these virtual council meetings relative to normal times? It would be nice for citizens to feel they are in the room, our virtual council chamber, with a cohort of their community, along with Madam Mayor and all councillors. Can the city please activate the online indicator, allowing attendees to understand the number of people present at each meeting?
Thank you for your question. I guess this has evolved over the past year, and we're always willing to look at other ways of doing it. I mean, we started, the first council meeting was by phone. And then we moved to YouTube Live, which was as well by Zoom, but didn't have an interactive Zoom webinar, so we couldn't see the questions that were submitted via YouTube. I think this format is better. So it's a lot of the same attendees, I would say. I would have hoped, I guess my hope was that we would have more people because it's online and it's more accessible. You don't have to leave your house. So I'd love to hear citizens' input on how we could, I mean, maybe not everybody finds council meetings exciting or they're zoomed out by the time the end of the day comes. But I like that we've had more questions in the second period, which we only recently, I think it was just last month where that happened for the first time. And that was when we went on Zoom webinar. So obviously that's an easier interface, but I guess I'm not sure what, maybe the city clerk can let me know, like, are we able to do what he's asking, or is that to have the attendees to see their faces? Is that what that would do, or?
I believe the request is to see the number of attendees
Okay,
who are watching the meeting. This is the second Zoom webinar I've hosted ever, so we're getting the hang of it. But we will explore if that function is possible. And I understand, of course, on the YouTube live that is visible, so we'll see if we can make that visible on Zoom as well.
Okay, so for his information, for Mr. Babchek's information, at the beginning of this meeting, there's 11 panelists. So that's all of council, the city clerk, and our director general and our assistant director general, and then those who are attending. And I think there was about 10 citizens attending before, and now we're down. Now I can see that the attendees are down to 6. So it's gone down throughout. I think most people attend like they do in public council meetings. Most people attend for the first question period and not throughout the whole thing. But we will certainly look at if there's a way to get more people involved in this and the best way to ask questions. So thank you for your question. But yeah, we're willing to evolve, and I can certainly talk to other mayors and see if they're doing a system that's a little bit different. I know that the Aglo Council meeting is there's no online formula for people that you have to submit your question in advance for an Aglo Council meeting. So that's is that it for questions? Yes, there's a question, is a thank you. Okay, thank you. So the meeting is adjourned. We will see, we will be back in the beginning of May. Good evening.
Good evening.